This podcast is sponsored by REFORGE Martial Arts. If you're looking for premium, unique rash guards to help you stand out on the mat, then head to the link in the description of this podcast and get one today. What is one red flag when you go into a martial arts gym?
I would say one of the most immediate red flags is if it's a gym where there is grappling going on, you're just seeing a lot of people with outdoor shoes on the mats. Like skin infections are a right fucker. And it's like, all right, maybe not the most skin infections are coming from shoes on mats, but it's just a very blatant visual sign of disregard for gym hygiene. So yeah, that'd be my like if you were to walk in a gym and there'd be that immediate red flag, it would probably be that. Um, yeah, I think just obvious disregard for hygiene.
Yeah, when I walked into your gym, when I came up there, you've got this little area just up where the stairs are, where it's like no shoes past there, right?
Yeah, so no shoes past there, and this is the bit that people just don't seem to fucking understand. No bare feet or socks or whatever is touching the mat on that floor. So you can just we're like the amount of times we're like, when it's your first time, I'm like, yeah, I get it. You might not understand it, but it's just like there are times where people will take their shoes off and stand with their feet on the shoe floor, and I'm like, that's they don't know yet. And I was like, oh, can you try not to stand on that floor once you've taken your shoes off? And then they will back further down the stairs as if being confronted. Like I was like, no, no, please, that's the exact opposite of what I want you to do. Just please come in. You are invited. Just come past this side of the tape, please. But it's just weird how that's like a lot of people's response when you start politely asking them something is they're just like, and then they'll back more like towards the bin and down the stairs. I'm like, no, please, like that's not what I'm asking.
Yeah, George was really on it because I didn't notice that little area. And as soon as I walked in, I had all my stuff with me. And he was like, "Oh, no, stop. Like, no shoes past there." And I was like, "Oh, shit. Sorry, man." Like, he
Yeah,
seemed quite on it.
yeah, it's just one of those things that like it can be, like especially like the first time can kind of be forgiven, or the very rare incident. Well, it's happened once where like paramedics have had to come into the gym because of some accident. I'm not exactly going to start telling the paramedics to take their shoes off when they go. Like they got to do what they got to do, So it's we're not complete Gestapo about it, but like please just if you're training in the gym, if you don't have the discipline to understand the shoe boundary, how are you gonna have the discipline and the understanding of like the martial arts and fighting and how complicated it is?
Mhm. Yeah. Have you ever had any like nasty staph infections or anything like that?
We've not had any bad ones. We have like it's one of those things where it can it can spread quick if it comes about. So like all it takes is one person to not know about it, and it can spread quite quickly. So there have been the odd little outbreak here and there, but they get contained fairly quickly.
Mm.
Uh, like me, George, Abdul, and then like a lot of the other students are now getting on it quite quick because they've seen how quickly we got on it, sort of copying. So it does get put to bed kind of quick if we start clocking staph infections or things that look like they could be staph infections. Because again, it's like that is the thing with the staph infection. Like a lot of people will just think it's a spot that's really bad at first. Uh, so yeah, it's like again when it's your first time, you can be forgiven for not really knowing and understanding what it is. So yeah, we've never had any like touch wood. We've never had any really bad ones. Like like any fucking holes in people's shins and hospital treatments and stuff like that. We've just had like the odd inflamed spot that took a little bit of antibiotics to get shot off.
Yeah, they're fuck. I assume you've probably had one at some point. Like you personally, you've had one, right?
No, like
Yeah.
I managed to go. Well, I think I might have had one when I just did Thai boxing. I just didn't know what it was
Hmm.
again, and it's Thai boxing. Like that was when I was 15. Just generally, they weren't as known about a thing, so I just sort of trained through it, and like I had a few like massive spots that just sort of came and went away, and then it went away on its own. But then if that wasn't the staph infection, then they had my first one like 2 years ago,
Oh, okay,
and it was
wow.
yeah, like I got it on my shin, and then a few months later, it sort of came back on my ankle, and then I went and cornered at some jiu-jitsu competition where I had big thick socks on all day, and then it just incubated it, and then my ankle was a fucking balloon.
Yeah, they're fucking horrible and they're so hard to get rid of. Like, I've been to Thailand a couple of times, and both times I went right at the end of my trip, I got this huge fucking staph infection both times, which was a hell of a way to end the trip. But it took me like probably 3, 4 weeks to actually get rid of it once I got back to the UK both times.
It's what I like. I have no interest in going and training at any of these mega gyms in Thailand. I just don't think it's worth it. Like if I was going to go to Thailand, I would go to a few of the smaller, quieter, just pure Thai boxing gyms. I just wouldn't grapple.
Hmm. Yeah, like so I went to Bangtao last time, and they were really on it with like cleaning the mats in between every session, and like the amount of people they get through there, like it's still just going to happen, you know. Like imagine you've spent all like John Danaher spoke about this. I think it was on the Rogan podcast a few years back, where like imagine you've spent all this money to get flights and accommodation and to go and train at one of these like really well-known gyms, and then a couple of days before you fly out, you get a little staph infection pop up. Are you going to cancel your trip or are you still going to go? You know, most people still end up going and just trying to cover it up and training without anybody seeing it, and then they, ruin everybody else's trip.
Yeah, there's it's such a melting pot as well. Like it's uh massively like it's really humid, and then I think there is something where where it's other people's bacteria and like you can't. I think when you're just training with the same people over and over again, it's like your immune system gets used to the same ecosystem of microbes. It's like if you ever, you can have your own boxing gloves for ages and they won't smell, and then you let someone else wear your boxing gloves and they just stink forever. I don't know if again, this is the most unscientific, non-peer reviewed, bro sciencey, anecdotal shit ever. But I do just think there is something about like having a vast amount of different people about can like I don't know. I think it just confuses your immune system again. Complete bro science. Um, maybe enough bro science to get me RFK's job, but fucking yeah.
I think you've got a career in being a doctor after MMA, man.
I mean, if someone as moronic, unqualified, and just outright dangerously stupid can be the fucking Secretary of Health or whatever for America, with his Make America Healthy campaign, which is essentially just let's stop spending loads of money on research that's actually doing anything. And Americans move on average about 15 minutes a day and then on average consume about 3,500 calories. That'll be why they're fat. No, we need to start looking at food colorings to ban. Guy's a fucking idiot. And then he gets Paul Saladino, who is like he's a fucking whopper. If I could fight anyone, I would fight Paul Saladino because like he started all that carnivore bullshit. He doesn't even follow it himself because it's shit and it makes you miserable and it's a stupid diet practice. Like cutting fiber and plants out of your diet is a surefire way to make yourself miserable and unhealthy. Anyway, yeah, he invites Paul Saladino to the White House where they fucking have a shot of raw milk, which is pointless. It's just dangerous. It's like you get barely any nutrients and massive amount more chance of fucking getting salmonella. So you invite him to the White House, and then you get fucking Saladino talking on camera about, well, calories in versus calories out doesn't work. I'm like, yes, it fucking does, you stupid fucking whopper. Absolute self-righteous prick. Going out here, like, trying to humiliate waiters in restaurants by getting his fucking social media cronies to, like, bully them, being like, what are the steaks cooked in? Are they cooked in tallow? Are they cooked in oil? Like, gosh, fucking twats. RFK is a moron.
I'm gonna be so real. I don't know who this guy is you're talking about. Like this
He,
poor
he, he,
guy.
talk, he talks like this, has a weird forehead vein, and he's
Right.
the separately held for America, even though he's a dangerous moron. It's
Right.
like there's the Kennedy family curse, because, like, obviously John F. Kennedy got fucking assassinated. One of them got a lobotomy in her 20s, and then, like, many of them have died in plane crashes and stuff. There's the Kennedy family curse, and then the one who doesn't seem to be affected by the curse is a curse on the American people in general, but just on the rest of the world in RFK.
So you're a
He
big
is
fan of American politics, I can see.
not really. I'm a big, like, I don't really like, as far as Trump and his policies and whatever fucking tariff games he wants. I don't give a fuck.
Hmm.
Like, fuck yeah, America. Let's have a UFC fight in the White House. I don't really give a fuck about any of that. I give a fuck about pseudoscience bollocks shysters fucking going out here trying to tell me that I can't have a fucking can of Cherryade because it's got aspartame in it, even though they're out here, or like trying to claim that seed oils are bad, even though in every fucking meta-analysis and big study and peer-reviewed journal, seed oils are actually better for you than the fucking saturated fats and the butters and shit that these whoppers are trying to claim.
Is that
Uh,
genuine true?
yeah, seed
In-
oils are sound. They're absolutely sound. Like, and people are like, who funds the studies? The fucking the Dutch, or like the Netherlands Dairy Association or whatever. They had every incentive to say the cow product was better. Ended up having to conclude their big fucking meta-analysis with, actually, yeah, the tallow and butter aren't as healthy as seed oils.
Mm.
Like, they had every incentive to fucking rig the study against the beef products and still had to be like, fuck. Because science actually, contrary to what these fucking whoppers will say, typically shows it's working, and you can just have a look at it. But yeah, that's probably the most impassioned rant you're gonna get out of me. I fucking I like me some seed oils. They are not as healthy as olive oil, but much easier to cook with because generally they have a high smoke point.
Mhm.
And I love me some fizzy pop with some sweeteners in. Um, and anyone who tries to tell me that these things aren't all right, fuck off. Science isn't on your side. Knobheads.
Yeah, yeah. I saw you had that can of was it that fucking that monster, the Lando Norris one?
Yeah, I'm not. I love Monster Energy.
Hmm.
I genuinely do, but I'm not super keen on that flavor. But I'm not a massive fan of watermelon. Leon Arms is addicted to it.
Well, that
He's
one.
just, yeah, he likes a watermelon. And I think the fact that it's watermelony, but with a little tinge of citrus about it, I think makes, if you're a fan of watermelon, makes it like peak refreshment. But for me, it's not my bag. My
Hmm.
favorite sugar-free Monster is the Ultra Vice Guava that you only ever rarely see in fucking the odd boss man shop that has a US import section.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's banging. They're bringing out a ultra passion fruit one, which again will be America for ages, and then it won't come here for forever, and it'll be sad.
Yeah, and then we'll get the really shitty fucking that new pink one that the can looks sick. It was, I think I don't know the name of it. That American one, which we
Oh yeah, the ruby whatever, where it's like got
yeah,
a little bit of color on each side. And, it's not my own. And then I've only found out America don't have bad apple flavor,
oh
and
really?
it sucks. It's like it's again not a good flavor of Monster. Like
Is this the
originally,
straight green can?
No, 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 no. It's the one with the woman holding the apple on it. Like, it's not my. It's definitely not my cup of tea. But it's like, oh, we get that, and they've got fucking Viking berry, which is goat tier, and Vice guava and all that shit. And then we've got bad apple, which just kind of tastes like bad apple juice.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like the peach one. Peach one's amazing, and the rosa one, they're pretty much where I go to. Um,
Yeah,
and
they're solid.
I get a free one at work every time I do a shift, and I'm just like, this is fucking great, like buzzing.
That's fucking yeah. That's that. As far like you could argue the employers could do more. Especially you work for Spoons, don't you?
Yeah,
So like you could argue they could do a bit more, but that's all right.
yeah. I can't really sit online and slate the company that I work for, but like, yeah,
Spoons is Spoons in it. It's Spoons.
yeah,
Like
yeah. And I get
the
20% off as well, right? So on a place that's already insanely cheap, I can go out on a night out and get 20% off on top of already what's an incredibly cheap night out. It's not too bad.
yeah. And I'll tell you what the thing with Spoons is, and the guy who's the head of Spoons said this was he was like my secret, and I'm going to tell you it because people won't listen. Is that I just don't have really loud music on, so people can actually go there and have a conversation.
Hmm.
And most people hate going in places where like it's deafening and they can't talk to each other. But for whatever reason, most pubs can't grasp this. And you go in there and it's just loud as fuck and you can't actually have a conversation and have a bit of crack. Spoons, has a lot of big business problems that a lot of big businesses do, but that's just big business. But like for what it is it's somewhere that is cheap and you just can have a bit of crack because you just can actually talk to each other.
Yeah, yeah, and some of the pubs can be a bit fucking rough. Like the one I work in is regarded as like the poshest one in the UK. And it's actually quite cool. It's a really nice building, so it's not too bad where I am. But I have been in somewhere I'm like, I don't feel safe in here.
Hmm. Yeah, it's weird because like it's a Spoons and everything is spoonsy. It's the same menu and it's the same drinks
Mm.
and it's the same. They've decided to put the toilet in the highest point of the building, but there are some Spoons where you're just like, this I don't feel right here. And then there's some Spoons where you're like, oh, what the fuck? This is swanky as shit. And then it's all the same stuff. It's bizarre. It's a
Yeah,
proper British thing, in it.
yeah, yeah. It is very, very British. Anyway, we've gone like well fucking off track, which I'm fine with. But we're gonna
Yeah, have
try.
we even talked about MMA?
Yeah, well, we spoke about shoes on the mat. So yeah, yeah. So let's try and bring it back a little bit more in towards like a martial arts setting. So I asked George this as well. I like asking this question. I always find it interesting to think like to get the perspective of someone who is at a very high level on what they think makes someone else at a very high level. So what, in your opinion, makes a great fighter?
I mean, it's always a combination of factors. It's never like one thing. A lot of people, like they'll attribute maybe Chipuri is not the best example, but like Pereira, for instance, people are like, oh, it's his power. Well, no, he's been very consistent and he's like sparred and fought with a lot of people, so he can problem solve in the moment. Um, he can defend takedowns and scramble up pretty well, and the shot selection's good, and then he's good at pacing. And like it's never one thing. And the thing that seems to, like be above all else is just kind of like these people they just live it. I think the main thing really is you're just living it. You're just putting yourself in the best environments you can, and you're just building yourself up to actually like, oh, you're just consistently training and chipping away. And there's all these areas that do need to improve, but they're just, yeah, I like, it's a bit of a, like a gimme answer, but it is consistency, really. There's consistency, there's a few other factors. Um, and then I guess there's realizing what's actually productive and what's not. You get some people who like work really, really hard, but the work they're doing is fucking getting battered and getting loads of brain damage in the gym. And I'm just like, yeah, like, all right, this is good for certain things, but you don't need to be doing this much. Um, so it's like consistent, deliberate hard work with a direction that doesn't negative, like, but the hard work needs to be hard work that doesn't negatively affect your health to the point where you can't actually compete anymore. Because I've seen so many fighters that have like, yeah, they've worked hard, but they've left their careers in the gym, and then or they've worked themselves so hard that they can't actually work consistently anymore. They've overdone it to the point where they need to take big breaks because they've got injuries and this and that, or they get burnt out. So like it's consistency, but like you need to make sure the hard work you're doing is sustainable or you'll just fuck yourself.
Yeah. Tom Aspinall did a podcast a couple of months back with Mighty Mouse. I don't know if you watched it. And he was talking about how like he thinks that when you initially start in the first few years of your career, it's important to do some hard, not loads of hard sparring all of the time, but it's important that you do that hard sparring so that you know A, what it's like to feel that when it comes to competition, and B, to find out like whether you've actually got that side of you ready and available to go when you need it. But he
Yeah,
said that as his career's gone on, he finds it less important to do that because A, like it's when he fights, it's very obvious that he's got that in him, and like he's got that sort of stack of proof that he can do that when he needs to, so he doesn't necessarily feel like he has to do so much hard sparring. He still trains hard, but like not beating the shit out of each other all the time. What's your opinion on
yeah,
that?
I agree with that. Like, as far as like properly hard fucking spars go, I don't do as many of them in a fight camp now. Uh, it's more like a once a week thing on a Friday for maybe like 6 of the weeks of fight camp. It is a bit of a double-edged sword and a kind of a do as I say, don't do what I do, because I do fucking enjoy a hard spar. I do love it, a harder spar, like, but you just gotta have your defenses about you. Like, there's enjoying a hard spar, and then there's it's not that enjoyable when you're fucking trying to drive home from the gym and you've got a headache or a blotch in your vision and you feel like a fucking whopper. But like, I think you do need an exposure to it in fight camp a little bit, but it doesn't need to be as often and as hard as people say. Like, there's having a hard spar that's reasonable, and then there's being stupid and trying to knock each other out in the gym. Like, you can have a hard spar with you can have a very hard spar with training partners you trust, and there is a degree of control. So like you're going in the flow and you're throwing things pretty hard. You're all padded up. But say I don't know if someone absolutely checkmates someone and gets a perfect shot lined up, they're not going to just take the piss with it. Like, I don't know, someone can get you fucking head leaning off. Me and George is a good example. Like, there's been times where one of us has managed to get someone to lean into a high kick and we've pulled it. We've been like walloping each other, like really competitive, trying to put it on one another. But there is a degree of trust that comes from the sheer amount of rounds we've done with each other and the environment we've got in the gym, where if you've got someone on a platter, not just blasting it, and looking after each other's head like that. But yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with Tom there. I think as well, there's having the hard sparring and stuff early on in your career, and then I think once you do, especially if you're like younger, once you do get good enough and ready to fight, just in those early parts of your career, just fighting often, like just fighting often because then you're getting that exposure to that, and you're sort of learning if you've got that dog in you and all that kind of stuff, and if you've actually got it in you to hurt someone. But it it is actually sort of productive and building you up. Like as again, like you want to be getting that hard sparring, that exposure in the gym, but you don't want to be practicing knocking people out in the gym.
Hmm.
What do I know? Tapuria does it all the time. He spars like amateurs and just wallops them. So,
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm chatting out my arse here. Maybe that's the secret. Maybe you just need a few human punch bags at your disposal, and then you can develop ludicrous punch power. So,
Just completely take advantage of people who are nowhere near as skilled as you. You know, why not?
I mean, you got to think the amount of reps he's getting of finishing people in the gym is ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. So when I was speaking with George, he's got this fucking mad mind of he just remembers fights from years ago. As I was sat next to him, I was like, I don't even know who these two guys are, but I'm really interested. He was talking about these two Muay Thai guys, can't remember their names, who had three fights in the space of 6 weeks, and they were all like absolute wars. Can't remember their names. Does that ring a bell with you?
I'm not as good with the names as George is.
Yeah.
I'm fucking terrible with names. Like the amount of times where people will be coming to the gym for ages, and I'll have to sort of nudge someone like, what are they actually called? Do you know what I'm giving advice in rounds? It's again, I feel that like I'm sometimes disrespectful. Genuinely, I'm just shit with people's names.
Yeah. The amount of times I do that is crazy. I always say I'm very open about it. Like if I'm in the gym and I'm like, if I start calling you mate, you know I've forgotten your name. So just remind me of your name. Like it's
I, I've just given people fake names before. Like I've just assumed what someone's name is and just ran with it. So there's a
yeah,
guy called Jacob at the gym. I just call him Damien. I started calling him Damien. He was like, "That's not my name, by the way." I was like, "It's too
yeah. Yeah, you're Damien now. Congratulations.
late."
Yeah. So yeah, how often do you feel like you could fight versus how often you do fight? Most pros fight about 2 to 3 times a year, but obviously that example there of two very high level Muay Thai guys having three absolute wars in the space of 6 weeks might not be best for their health. Definitely isn't best for their health, but it kind of it's an example of like people could fight more, and it you kind of see it quite a lot with, I mean, especially like the heavyweight division over the past couple of years in the UFC, where it's been pretty vast, pretty like people haven't fought very often, right? How often do you feel like you could fight?
Honestly, I wish there is a sort of. I kind of wish I didn't have the belt.
Hmm.
Do you know, like being champion means I can't fight as much as I want to. I still managed to get those 3 fights in the space of 10 months. 3 fights, 3 wins in 10 months, which is pretty fucking sound. But like the 5 round fight camps, they do just you're only fighting for an extra 10 minutes, so 25 minutes as opposed to 15. But like that prepping for that extra 10 minutes is so much fucking more draining on the body, and you're way more likely to be in a situation where you're going to get injured in training. Like each of those fight camps, I came out with some lingering niggle from it that I've had to use this time to recover from. Um, if I was back to 3 round fights, I would love a 4 fight year. I would fucking love a 4 fight year. Like once before, it was 2021. I fought April, June, and then the start of October. Maybe if I was to get on it a bit earlier, and then I could have done December or something. I would love a 4 fight year at some point. Um, but it's just about having those opportunities and stuff like that. I would love that. Whether it'll ever happen, I don't know.
I feel like it's good for the brand of the fighter as well. Like the really obvious example is with Chimaev, right? Like when he first joined the UFC, when he had, was it like those two fights in the same, was it the same like 10 days or something like that?
It was like 10 days apart. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that kind of thing's mint if you can do that.
Yeah.
Like really, like I would love to do something like that as well, to be fair, but obviously just I don't know, my skin's pasty as fuck, so even in fights where I've 30-26 someone, I'm like I have black eye and stitches and stuff, so I'm not sure if that'll happen because I've got fucking pasty ass skin. But I would love to fight, like super close to one another.
Hmm. Yeah, like I say, I think it's really good for the fighter's brand to be
Mm.
on people's screens more, right? Like I was talking to someone about this the other day. Like as much as maybe the UFC doesn't have the best pay, and I don't think it necessarily does. I feel like people should get paid more for what they do. Sorry, my fan has just like completely stopped mid-sentence. It really threw me off. Anyway, um, what they do offer you is like this platform, and it's in my opinion, a lot of fighters aren't making the most of that platform. It's like what you and your brother do really well is you sit in front of a camera and you talk down the lens and people know who you are. And that's one of the reasons why you've got a bigger name for two guys that don't fight in the UFC, right?
Yeah, I definitely think. I think if you can get an active spell in the UFC, maybe I'm talking out of my lens of the world is Middlesbrough prices, but like if I was on the standard UFC contract and I had 3 fights within a year or within 10 months and I won them all, there would not be an ounce of complaints from me. Like that would go a long way up here. Um, but yeah, I think definitely when people can do it, Chimaev or Joshua Van, the flyweight fella at the minute,
Yeah.
like he's fought really, really regularly. You are just in the public's conscience. Like this sport moves fast. People can forget about you. Like I have to be careful with my current state right now where I'm trying to like manufacture a UFC opportunity for myself. I can't sit out for too long. If I don't get anything by, I don't know, September, I'll have to look to have another Cage Warriors fight again just to refresh people's memories of who I am and what I'm about. Um, so yeah, there is there is that. Like people have short memories, but a way you can get past that is by fighting regularly as hell.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the again, if I can just cut this if you can't say anything about it or whatever, but like what is the situation with Cage Warriors in terms of are they because you're very publicly at the moment sort of being like, I'm trying to get a UFC fight. Are they like cool with that? I know they're sort of in a way partnered with the UFC, right?
Yeah, like they're sound with that. Like
Yeah, they kind of get they get it.
I've had conversations with the Cage Warriors higher ups about all this stuff.
Hmm.
Um, they are cool with it and actually helping.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's sort of like Cage Warriors wants their champions to go to the UFC, really. So yeah, they're helping. It's all good.
Yeah. But everyone I've spoken to that's like been involved with Cage Warriors says they're a really good promotion. Like they don't have any complaints about it. Like, yeah.
Mm. Well, there's actively in your Cage Warriors contract there is a UFC release clause, so it's
Oh,
like you're exclusively signed to Cage Warriors. But if the UFC comes along, then that can there is a clause in your contract for that allows a release in those situations.
okay. That I mean that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I saw that you had your first. I might be wrong on this. But you had your first amateur fight in 2013. Is that right?
Yeah, fucking long ass time ago.
Yeah.
Amateur fight, fucking. I'd only been doing MMA 6 months at the time. I had 3 Thai boxing fights.
Hmm.
I'm doing MMA about 6 months. There was an interclub on. Then after the interclub, there was like a full on fight show. And I just got a message, would I be available to fight on the show? And I was like, yeah. And then I got kind of grapple fucked in round 1, but it was back when knees to the head were legal. And then in round 2, I managed to knee the guy in the head and get some weird back take off a tie clinch. Kind of similar to how Vucenic did to Hendon.
Mhm.
And then I sort of got the guy down and then just made it a really rough fight for the next 2 rounds and won. And then I think I was only amateur for about 2 years before I turned pro, arguably a bit early. And then I just let bullshit and jobs and other shit get in the way. Like where in my head, I'd decided that this is what I want to do with my life, but my actions didn't quite match it. So I just wasn't active enough in my early pro career.
What sort of things you mentioned, like jobs and that? Were you sort of? So I've seen it quite a lot where people are like, "Do I go down this career path or do I pursue this MMA thing?" Because it's like safe option, pretty fucking unsafe option. Was it something like that or not?
Not as much. It was just like trying to get a support work job thing sorted, and then getting that sorted, the fucking DBS check or whatever it is really dragged, and then the actual job itself took a while to settle into because there was night shifts and stuff. Again, I was just farting about. I knew what I wanted to do, and then I ended up doing that support work job for a while. But when George fought Robin Roos, they asked me to work a night shift the night before that fight. Excuse me, what? They asked me to work a night shift the night before that fight, and I was bank staff, so I could just turn shifts down. And I was like, no. And then I just didn't get any shifts again, which I guess, is kind of dodgy and maybe a bit illegal, but that company's gone bust now, so fuck them.
Yeah, yeah. So so you sort of gave up on that at that point and then just went all in on MMA?
Yeah, yeah. Like, went all in. Meant I was doing more coaching as well. And it's like, it's probably, it's a bit rare that you get like an active fighter maybe who is coaching as much as, well, active fighters that are coaching as much as me and George are, and going about corner amateur fighters and stuff. But I don't know, it's not a separate thing to me. I love it. I'm all in.
Hmm. But I wanted to speak to you a little bit about the coaching side of it as well, because like you say, it's not very often that you get active fighters who do coach. Um, are you coaching like every day, sort of like, is that almost like a full-time job as well?
Kind of. So like we don't have loads of classes on at our gym. We've just got Monday to Friday. We've got 3 classes a night. We've got the actually we've only got two on a Thursday. We've got like under 16s 5 to 6, then the beginner to intermediates 6 till 7, and then the advanced sort of competitors class 7 o'clock onwards. And then we just sort of split teaching duties. I'll probably teach a class or two a night, other than Wednesdays, which is wrestling, which Abdul just teaches all 3 classes every week. And it's just sort of me, George, and Abdul kind of decide who teaches what.
Hmm.
But yeah, then there's the other stuff that you got to do outside of it. You got to give fighters the extra session here, like the really committed people, the extra session here and there, and figure it out. But yeah, it is hard work and it's a lot of effort, but it is really rewarding.
Hmm.
And we've got a really good group at the minute. Like they're a really like tight knit, good group of lads who work hard and they'll look after each other and look out for each other. And then they're getting to the point now where they're all becoming like absolute fucking handfuls, training partners. And then there's another wave of them that are a bit younger coming through that are just going to absolutely fucking batter me and George when probably about 3 to 5 years. So it's rewarding. It is rewarding, and it's definitely what I see myself doing for like the long run. Once I'm done fighting, I'll coach. I don't really see myself, retiring from fighting and finding some other job.
Is that something, so that is something that you really want to take seriously after your career is coaching, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What pardon?
I just said what I want to do.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. So what makes, in your opinion, like I don't know much about who's coached you or whatever, but have you had multiple coaches? Like, and in your opinion, what makes a really good coach for you? Because it's a bit different for everybody, right? But what do you want in a coach?
So what makes a really good coach for me? Like I've only ever fought out of MFA and ever represented MFA. Like I've been to a lot of different gyms and worked with a lot of different coaches, but as far as like my MMA coach has been Abdul Mohammed since day one. Before that, I had Stephen Long and Kin Prayon Tawang in Muay Thai. And then since 2017, I've had Peter Irving as sort of a jiu-jitsu and MMA coach. And then me and George kind of coach each other. And one of the main things that stands out, because, Abdul and Pete, very different. Again, very different to Stephen Long, very different to Kin. But I think the thing that stands out is the base of the pyramid. There is like a really solid foundation of techniques that everything is sort of built on top of. And like the solid foundation of techniques, they're almost like dictators with that in a lot of ways. They're almost like, no, this is what you need to be able to do to actually build your game off of. But then they are willing to discuss and listen, and you're willing to figure things out about the other parts of the pyramid. So like there's the solidest base you can make out of like the most high percentage, fundamentally sound stuff. But then there is freedom to actually, like express yourself and figure things out for yourself. So I would say that. I think it was like Danaher said, like he's a dictator with the fundamentals, but a libertarian with, I don't know what word he used, probably something needlessly long and kind of Japanese.
I go and train at BST.
Yeah.
I think I saw that you and your brother have gone there before a couple of times.
Yeah, we've been a few times in the past. My ex-missus lived in Aylesbury, so like
Okay.
Buckinghamshire and Northamptonshire is not too much of a drive.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's about like an hour and a half or so for me, but it's really worth it for I live in Suffolk and there's not much great MMA in Suffolk.
Yeah.
And I did a podcast with Danny and we got on really well and I was like, oh, can I come and train? And he was very he's great. And one of the things that stands out about him as a coach is just his sheer depth of knowledge in each different position. It's like
Mm.
it might just be because I'm not as experienced.
No, Danny knows his shit.
Yeah, like I go there and when I'm training, I'm asking him a question and he's got like just answer after answer after answer for each different possible scenario. And I'm like, how have you came to this point where you've got all of this knowledge? It's like sort of like blows my mind, you know? And I think that's what I look for personally in a coach. Maybe again, because I'm not as experienced at the moment as well. But when someone's just got that sheer depth of knowledge that just blows you away, you know?
Yeah. Like they're like again. There's definitely that going on. That is a important thing you need really. Again, get that with Danny. Get that with Abdul. Abdul will make very complicated things seem almost reductionistly simple, but I'm not sure if that's just his voice and his mannerisms sometimes.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, why don't you just grab this? And you're just like, oh yeah. Um, but yeah, I definitely agree with that. You got to think as well with like a lot of these coaches, like they will have been, like a guy like Danny, a guy like Pete, a guy like Abdul. These people will have been around the sport for like 3+ decades at this point. Like that is a lot of knowledge, and it's generally the people who really are interested in it are the people who end up being coaches in the end. It's not people, maybe there's the odd exception, but like it's not the people who half-ass it who end up being coaches of MMA teams by, the time they're done. Or like, after 3 decades of the sport. So these people have been interested and engaging and paying attention to the sport for longer than I've been alive. Like there is something to be said about that. Like the amount, it will seem like an almost confusing amount of knowledge. Like where you're like, oh well, how do you have that stored in your back pocket about like when the person's knee is pointing in this direction in this clinch position and all that kind of stuff, and then how do you know a thing to do when someone's DAS is locked in this specific variation as opposed to this specific variation and stuff like that? But it's just there are people out there who have lived this sport for an insane amount of time. It's why I don't part coaches being clever is part of why I don't bet on fights. I don't bet on big fights because I'm just like, well, there's people who are cleverer than me in the corners of both of these people who could very easily subvert any expectations we have, because any expectations we have of what could possibly happen in this fight, these fuckers probably already know. So I'm just like, I don't bet on fights because I just think like in high level fights, these people and their coaches probably, almost certainly know more than I do about these people and this specific matchup. So I'm just like, fuck that. I can't be taking these odds.
Yeah, like that's one of the things which I always think about when people moan about like boring fights. I very rarely watch a fight and think that was really boring because like a really good example is when Adesanya was on his run, right? I think he went through a phase of I might butcher the order of the fights, but these are the fights that I'm referencing was he fought Vittori, Cannonier, and Whitaker for the second time. I don't know
Yeah,
if that's the right order,
I
but
don't know the order, but I know the fights. Yeah,
that sort of period of time where people were like, oh, Adesanya is just really fucking boring. And like, if you look at the Vittori fight, for example, or the Cannonier, especially those two, like the Whitaker one was closer, but those two fights, like the way he managed to shut those guys out with what he was doing, it's just unbelievable. Like
oh,
Cannonier and Vittori would walk through most men on the planet, right?
yeah.
And Adesanya just completely shut both of them out like it was nothing. I find that so
Yeah.
impressive.
Well, it's like that was the thing was with kids at the gym where I'd be like, oh no, like watch Adesanya and go, oh, but he's boring. Like, no, no, don't get into that. Watch how he's, hip faking and shoulder faking and how he's aware of his positioning in the cage. Learn things from him. Don't be dismissed. Like if someone is UFC championship caliber and winning multiple, like defending the belt multiple times, learn something. Like I think if you're actually in the sport and you're trying to get better at the sport, being dismissive of things that people do, especially things that high level people do, is just a recipe for fucking stagnating and making yourself shit.
Mm.
Like that, I will never, or I will very rarely be dismissive. Every now and then, someone will somehow do something in a high level fight that's so shit that I'll be like, what the fuck? But like, you can't be dismissive of these people because they're there, they're doing the thing. It's like Whittaker, I mean not Whittaker, fucking Duplessis. People saying all this shit about him. Every fight on the run to the belt. I was like, no, but like he is winning.
Mm.
And he's winning convincingly in the end. It's like the end result is the most important thing. Like the fucking proof of the pudding's in the eating. He's winning these fucking fights. It's not on you to dismiss what he's doing because it looks goofy. Try and figure out why it's working and what was potentially wrong with your preconceived notions about what is supposed to be effective.
Yeah, I actually spoke to one of the coaches in Duplessis' team months back now on the podcast. And he was saying like a lot of people say what Duplessis does is like goofy, but it's actually a lot more by design than people think it is. It just looks a bit different, but they just have a different way of approaching MMA.
Well, yeah, like the how a punch looks is nowhere near as important as if a punch lands.
Yeah.
So like if he's doing the right things to put himself into position to land the punch, then the punch being a bit goofy doesn't fucking matter. I think it's not an MMA example, but like in other sports, there was Paula Radcliffe had a weird head bob when she was running, and then you got all these fucking Poindexters and nerds who don't actually, who don't know how to actually physically graft hard enough to make themselves win at any sort of sport, being like, well, actually, if we got rid of the head bob, she'd become so much more efficient at running, and then she should run like 5% faster. And then they try to train the head bob out of her, and then she ran slower. Like, it's just one of the things, like, you can't fucking science your way into knowing how someone feels comfortable performing. So they're like, she started running, so all right, just start bobbing your head again. And then, wait, she was back on it. Or like, people, like, again, these fucking Poindexter, like, pretend to be smart over the fucking just morons being like, we need to try and make Usain Bolt's spine straighter. How? How? And it doesn't fucking matter. He's the fastest guy ever. Like, the fact that his spine curve's a bit weird. Sound. All right. That just happens. Or there was a Brazilian footballer called Garrincha, who was like, like Pele or like a absolute legend of the sport. But like, before all these nerds started to interfere with like the like talks of alignment and stuff, like, are you aware of the term knee valgus, where your knees both point in towards each other?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had sort of valgus on one knee, but then the opposite on the other, so his knees sort of like bowed in a little weird way.
Mm.
But he was like, these nerds back, there wasn't all these dorks back in the day going like, oh, we need to sort his posture out. People were like, oh, well, he changes direction really fast. That must be a good thing in some sort of way. Well, hey, let's go Garincha. Like, it, these fucking, there's these dorks about Paddy, like, oh, I fucking, Paddy striking shit. Like, is it fuck? I sparred Paddy, he's hard work. Like, just because some of his strikes look a bit weird doesn't mean he's not timing them and placing them really well. It is what you can do instinctively under duress is the most important thing. If you're fucking out here trying to think about every fucking last little thing, like, oh, my foot needs to be in this position, and then my chin needs to be tucked, and my hand needs to be. On the time you've had all these thoughts, Paddy or Duplessis will have just whacked you like 4 times with just whatever comes to their mind. Like, with whatever their body feels natural doing.
Yeah.
It's just, people need to stop being massive Poindexters about it. Just have to be like, all right, there is an element of you've just programmed your body and got your body really physically ready, and you're going to scrap someone. And just a lot of the time, whatever your body feels like is the right thing to do is the right thing to do.
When you're fighting, do you feel like, I don't know how this question relates, but it's just popped into my mind as you were talking. When you're fighting, do you feel like you're on autopilot, or are you having to think about some of the things that you're doing, or does it sort of switch back and forth sometimes, maybe?
Mostly autopilot. The odd thought will creep in here and there. The thoughts will be more like, like writing a ship, like, maybe I should do this, maybe I need to step back. Every now and then there'll be a specific technique you think is going to work. But if the thought and the action, like, you're not thinking, like, oh, well, maybe if I jab to the body and then later on I can set this above. It's like, if the thought and the action aren't really close together, then you just got to trust your autopilot. Like, there's the odd time where you might just go, oh, he's reaching back. And you just whack him with something. Or you'll be mid grapple and you'll be like, oh, his neck. And you're just snagging it. Like, but the majority, you're just on autopilot. You just got to train as hard as you can. Well, not, like, train as best as you can. And then trust what your body is going to do.
Have you ever been confused by the person in front of you when you're fighting? Does that make sense?
Conmon Dare was a confusing fucker. He was just weird. He was just awkward. And then, like, like when you're used to being able to do things and they'll land cleanly and stuff, and then just everything just sort of seemed to deflect weirdly off him, and then shit was just coming at a weird angle. There have been times where you've had a confusing opponent, and it's like I just sort of had to get ahead of him. It was really weird fight that.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of questions to finish up on. So probably won't take too much more of your time. And but what is the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome during a match, or even like, say, like fight week? Obviously, there was that I think it was your last fight, right, where George fought before you and it didn't go particularly great. I saw a video about you speaking about that. But have you ever had something like in the octagon that you had to really overcome?
Going back to Con one day, he just landed some really weird body kick out of nowhere that just knackered my ribs to the point where like even bending down was painful and like rotating was painful. And he just did that towards the end of the first round. I was like, what the fuck? So I had to just sort of fight through that, but that was awful. But like I think cornering George in a 5 round war where he lost his belt and then had to go to hospital afterwards before I had my own fight was yeah, that probably takes the cake. Like if there was any night Javier Garcia could have beat me, it was that night because like I felt like shite. Like there's feeling bad and then just being able to perform anyway, but like I felt like an absolute ghost of myself. I felt like I was vacant and had nothing, and I felt slow, and I
Mm.
felt like my brain was slow, and then vacant and getting distracted easily. And I still beat Javier, won every single round against him, in spite of the fact that he was constantly, desperately cheating because the fight wasn't going his way. He's a fucking melt him.
Yeah. Were you still thinking about what happened prior, like in the match as well, like, as the fight was happening, or was it gone out of your mind at that point?
I don't know. It was just weird. I was just like, it was sort of, in the fight. I was like, feel shit,
Mm.
tired. Why am I tired? And like, stuff isn't landing. Uh, and I was trying to like just will myself into it a little bit. Um, Everything sort of felt a bit like disjointed and vacant, but
Mm.
I felt slow and like everything felt heavy and tired, and it felt like normally I'll stamp my feet into the cage when I enter the cage. Just it's like a weird little thing that I've started doing, but I've done for many fights now. But it's almost like I'm taking the filter off, like I'm hitting something as hard as I can without really thinking about it.
Mm.
I remember just like trying to stamp my feet into the cage when I got in that cage. I was like, oh, it was pathetic, and my foot kind of slid along the floor. Oh, this isn't good.
Yeah, but the fact that you managed to still push through and still get the win, that must have taught you a lot about yourself, right?
Yeah, but it was a bit shit and it's a bit annoying. Like the UFC were in town. I had one boring fight and it was that one. And then it ended in a weird sort of like controversial way, got like controversial way. Because it looks weird on camera. Like when I watched it back, I'm like, oh, that doesn't look how it felt. Like at the time, I got headbutted. I got fucking cartoon sort of concussion where I had a bit of double vision. There's blood going in my eye. And then obviously with all the other shit going on, probably wasn't in the best fucking state anyway.
Mm.
And then I had Mark Goddard and Chris Lamb kind of arguing a little bit in front of me, and I was like, well, like fucking two of each of them arguing in front of me. I was like, what the fuck's going on? Ah, but like, where like to me, it was fucking just this absolute momentous cascade of disorientation and horribleness. And then when I watch it back, it kind of just looks like I get nutted and go, ugh, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. It is one of those things. It is what it is. It's
Yeah,
happened. I can't make it unhappen.
yeah. So, last question then. Obviously, you spoke a little bit about looking to get into the UFC and all of that. In the next sort of 12 months, obviously no one can have an exact plan, especially in a sport like this, right? But ideally, what would your next 12 months look like in your career?
Um, so if I'm trying to make a UFC opportunity for myself, I'm trying to get a US visa, but appointments are a right fucker to get at the minute. Like the next appointment I could get was in March of next year, which is not ideal at the embassy in London. Um, I've been refreshing the reschedule appointment page multiple times a day, every day, and I've got it down to February now. Um, It'll just kind of like there might be a day where someone's cancelled, and I'm just like, right, fuck it, I'm going to London today. So yeah, I'm trying to get that. I'm gonna go to places where the UFC is, like the international shows where you don't require a US visa. Um, well, I'm probably not gonna go to China. I might, fuck it, I might go to China. Who the fuck cares? But I'm gonna go to Abu Dhabi in 2 weeks and stay over near where the UFC action's going on. I think I'll just do what I can to remove any roadblocks in case there's a pullout. But yeah, I'm just staying ready, staying in shape, training consistently. If none of that comes off, which, it might not come off, then I've just got to, yeah, I don't know, defend my belt again or give me belt up and have a random lightweight fight, just palm on my way through fight camp. The temptation to do that just for the crack. Because like I've always thought I could beat someone at lightweight. I've not fought at lightweight, but like especially if I can finish someone at lightweight. Like if I can knock someone out at lightweight, if I had knockouts at bantamweight, featherweight, and lightweight, it'd be cool as fuck. It would just be something cool to say.
Yeah.
So fuck knows. Like if there's no UFC opportunity by I don't know September or something, I'll just look to get another Cage Warriors fight booked in some description. I don't know. Fuck it. And then next 12 months, I'm either in the UFC or I've had a few more wins. Again, I can't complain. My life's all right.
And how many more Palmos are you going to have in that time?
All of them.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, man. And yeah, I appreciate your time.
No worries, brother. It's all good. Thanks for having me on.
Have you got anything you want to like shout out before I end it?
No.
No. That's good with me. That's good with me. Saves me having to put links and stuff everywhere. Obviously, I'll put a link to your Instagram and all of that in the description. But
Thank you very much.